The Zephyrian armada descended from the void like a plague of metal locusts, their crimson ships blotting out Earth's sun. Commander Valak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Throne, watching the blue marble spin helplessly below. His elongated skull bore the ritual scars of 1,000 conquered worlds, each mark representing a species that had knelt before the might of the Zephyrian Empire. Another backwater world, Valak mused, his 4 arms crossed behind his back. Tell me again why the High Council demands we harvest from this particular rock. His second-in-command, General Krex, consulted the holographic display floating before them. The humans, my lord. Their blood contains unique properties. Our scientists believe it holds the key to extending our already considerable lifespans by centuries more. The Council grows old even by our standards. Valak nodded slowly. The Zephyrians had ruled the galaxy for over 3 millennia, their empire stretching across 10,000 star systems. They had perfected the art of conquest, reducing entire civilizations to cattle, harvesting whatever biological resources they required. Some species provided organs, others rare minerals from their bones, and still others served as living batteries for their technology. How many of these humans inhabit the planet? Valak inquired. Approximately 8 billion, my lord. A robust population for harvesting. Our advanced scouts report they have barely achieved basic spaceflight. No unified planetary government. No energy shields. No quantum weapons. They still fight with chemical propellants and nuclear devices. A cruel smile spread across Valak's lipless mouth. Primitives. This will be over before their next sunrise? The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Through the vast viewport, Earth hung like a jewel in the darkness, unaware of the doom approaching from the stars. The Zephyrian fleet consisted of 300 vessels, each one capable of glassing a continent. It was massive overkill for such a primitive world, but the High Council demanded efficiency. Sir, Communications Officer Nex called out, we're receiving transmissions from the planet's surface. Multiple languages, but our translators are already adapting. Put it through, Valak commanded. The bridge speakers crackled to life with a cacophony of human voices. News broadcasts, military communications, civilian chatter, all blending into a symphony of confusion and growing fear as telescopes and satellites began detecting the approaching fleet. Listen to them, Krex sneered, like animals sensing the approach of predators. But something in the transmissions caught Valak's attention. Unlike the species they had conquered before, these humans weren't immediately prostrating themselves or trying to flee. Instead, he heard something unexpected: defiance. Military units were mobilizing. Governments were coordinating responses. Scientists were analyzing the alien ships with remarkable speed. Curious, Valak murmured. Most species either surrender immediately or scatter like wind-blown seeds. These humans seem to be organizing. It matters little, my lord. Krex replied dismissively. Their primitive weapons cannot even scratch our shields. This will be a simple harvest operation. Valak wasn't entirely convinced. In his 3 centuries of conquest, he had learned to respect any species that didn't immediately collapse into chaos at the first sign of superior force. Still, the numbers were overwhelmingly in their favor. What could 8 billion primitives do against the most advanced military force in the galaxy? Begin orbital positioning, Valak ordered. Activate the harvesting protocols. I want mobile blood banks established on every continent within 6 rotations. The Zephyrian ships moved with practiced precision, each vessel taking position above major population centers. The plan was simple and had worked on countless worlds before. Demonstrate overwhelming force, crush any resistance, then establish processing centers where the local population could be systematically drained of their valuable blood while being kept alive for maximum yield. As the ship settled into position, Valak noticed something else unusual in the human transmissions. They weren't just organizing militarily. They were sharing information at an unprecedented rate. Technical specifications, tactical analysis, even emotional support, all flowing freely between nations that their intelligence suggested were often hostile to each other. My lord, the sensor operator called out, we're detecting massive movement on the planet's surface. Civilian populations are being evacuated from major cities, but they're not fleeing randomly. It appears to be coordinated. Coordinated how? They're consolidating into defensive positions. Rural areas, mountainous regions, underground facilities. And, sir, the operator paused, confusion clear in his voice. They're bringing their industrial capacity with them. Valix frowned. Most species either fought with whatever weapons they had on hand or tried to hide. But these humans seem to be adapting their entire civilization for warfare in real time. It doesn't matter, Krex insisted. Begin the demonstration phase. A few cities reduced to ash will convince them to cooperate. No, Valix said slowly, studying the tactical display. Something is different about these creatures. I want more intelligence before we commit to full engagement. Sir, with respect, we have overwhelming superiority. What could they possibly do? Valix didn't answer immediately. He was watching the human response patterns, noting how quickly they adapted, how efficiently they shared resources and information. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen anything quite like it. Deploy advanced scout teams, he finally ordered. Small units only. I want to understand what we're dealing with before we begin the harvest. As you command, my lord. As the scout ships launched toward Earth's surface, Valix couldn't shake the feeling that this routine harvesting operation might not be as routine as they had planned. The humans were different somehow, and in his experience, different usually meant dangerous. Below them, Earth spun on its axis, its blue oceans and white clouds hiding 8 billion souls who were about to discover they were not alone in the universe. And in laboratories and military bunkers around the globe, humans were already beginning to analyze the alien technology, their minds racing to find weaknesses in ships that had conquered the stars. The harvest was about to begin, but neither side yet understood what they were truly facing. The Zephyrian scout ship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star, its advanced cloaking systems shimmering against the morning sky above Colorado. Inside the cramped vessel, Squad Leader Thorn checked his plasma rifle one final time. This should have been routine, another simple intimidation mission on another primitive world. Remember, he growled to his 3 subordinates. We need live specimens for blood typing, stun settings only until we understand their physiology. The ship touched down in what their sensors indicated was a sparsely populated area, a small town called Millfield, perfect for a demonstration of superior force that would quickly spread through their primitive communication networks. What Thorn didn't know was that Millfield had been evacuated 3 hours earlier. What he also didn't know was that the town now contained 200 United States Marines, 50 British SAS operators, 40 Russian Spetsnaz soldiers, and 30 Chinese Special Forces troops, all working together for the first time in human history. As the scout ship's ramp lowered with a mechanical whir, Thorn stepped onto Earth soil with the confidence of a species that had conquered the galaxy. His forearms carried advanced energy weapons. His exoskeleton could stop projectiles that would punch through tank armor, and his sensors could detect life forms from miles away. The first bullet took him completely by surprise. The round, fired by Marine sniper Sarah Chen from 800 meters away, struck Thorn's helmet with the force of a sledgehammer. His advanced materials absorbed the kinetic energy, but the impact staggered him. Before he could recover, the quiet morning air erupted into chaos. Bullets came from everywhere. Not the simple chemical projectiles his briefings had described, but advanced armor-piercing rounds that human engineers had developed in the mere 6 hours since the alien ships had arrived. Tungsten cores wrapped in depleted uranium moving at velocities that stressed even Zephyrian technology. Contact, Thorn roared into his communicator, raising his plasma rifle. Taking fire from multiple positions. He squeezed the trigger, sending a bolt of superheated energy toward one of the muzzle flashes. The beam struck the abandoned building, vaporizing a section of concrete wall. But the human who had been firing from there was already gone, having moved the moment after shooting. More bullets rained down on the Zephyrian squad. These humans fought unlike anything Thorn had encountered. Most species either stood and fought in formation or ran in terror. These creatures did both simultaneously, moving like ghosts through terrain they knew intimately while maintaining devastating fire discipline. Thorn to Crimson Throne, he called desperately as his squad sought cover behind their ship, requesting immediate backup. These primitives they're not primitive. From his position 3 kilometers away, Colonel Marcus Webb watched the engagement through high-powered optics. The former Delta Force operator had been placed in command of Earth's first joint alien response team, and he was learning valuable lessons with every passing second. Dragon 6 to all units, he spoke into his radio. Target the articulation points. Their armor has gaps where the limbs connect to the torso. The human forces adapted their tactics in real time. Sniper teams began targeting the joints in the alien armor, while assault teams moved to better positions using underground tunnels that had been hastily excavated by civilian construction crews working around the clock. Thorn's second in command, a younger warrior named Klex, took a round through the shoulder joint of his exoskeleton. The bullet, designed by human engineers who had analyzed the alien ship's hull composition through long-range spectroscopy, penetrated the armor and lodged in his flesh. "Impossible," Klex screamed. "Their weapons cannot penetrate our defenses." "Tell that to your bleeding arm," Thorn snarled back, firing desperately at shadows that seemed to dance just beyond his targeting systems. The engagement lasted only 18 minutes, but it changed everything. When it was over, 2 Zephyrian warriors lay dead. One was wounded, and Thorn himself was trapped inside their scout ship with a damaged engine and multiple hull breaches. Above the atmosphere, Commander Valix listened to the frantic reports with growing unease. "Say again, Squad Leader Thorn. You encountered how many hostiles?" "Unknown, my lord. They were everywhere and nowhere. Our sensors couldn't lock on to them. They moved through the terrain like they were part of it. And their weapons." Thorn's voice carried a note Valix had never heard from his subordinates before. Fear. Elaborate. "They adapted, sir. Mid-battle, they changed their ammunition, their tactics, even their positions. It was like fighting an enemy that was learning how to kill us while we were trying to kill them." General Krex scoffed from his position beside Valix. "Impossible. No primitive species can adapt that quickly to superior technology." But Valix was studying the battle recordings transmitted from Thorn's helmet camera. The humans moved with a fluid intelligence that spoke of centuries of warfare against their own kind. They used their environment like a weapon, turning every piece of cover into a fortress and every open space into a kill zone. More disturbing was how quickly they had modified their weapons. The initial rounds had been standard kinetic projectiles, but within minutes of the engagement, they were using ammunition specifically designed to defeat Zephyrian armor. That suggested not just tactical adaptation, but technological innovation happening in real time. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving transmissions from the planet's surface. They're talking to us." "Put it through." A human voice filled the bridge, speaking in clear, measured tones. "Zephyrian vessel, this is Colonel Marcus Webb of the United Earth Defense Force. You have illegally entered our sovereign space and attacked our personnel. You have 60 seconds to withdraw your forces, or we will consider this an act of war." General Krex laughed. "United Earth Defense Force? They formed a planetary military in 6 hours?" But Valix wasn't laughing. He had heard that tone before, in the voices of species that had cost the Empire dearly. It was the voice of a predator that had just realized it was in a fight. "Respond," Valix ordered. "Human, you will surrender immediately and prepare your population for harvesting. Resistance will only increase your suffering." There was a pause before the human voice returned, and this time Valix detected something that chilled him. Amusement. "Commander, let me explain something to you. You've just attacked a species that spent most of its history figuring out new and creative ways to kill itself. We've had wars that lasted decades, weapons that could sterilize continents, and political systems based on the assumption that everyone is trying to destroy us." The voice paused again. "You came here to harvest us. But here's the thing about predators, alien. Sometimes the prey fights back, and sometimes the prey wins." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Crimson Throne in absolute silence. Valix stared at the tactical display showing Earth's surface, where his scout team was still trapped and under siege. For the first time in 3 centuries of conquest, he was beginning to wonder if the Zephyrian Empire had bitten off more than it could chew. Dr. Elena Vasquez hadn't slept in 36 hours. The theoretical physicist turned alien technology analyst stood in what had once been the Large Hadron Collider facility, now hastily converted into humanity's primary xenotech research center. Around her, the greatest minds from every nation worked frantically to understand the wreckage of the Zephyrian scout ship that had been captured in Colorado. "The hull plating uses a crystalline matrix I've never seen before," called out Dr. Yuki Tanaka from Tokyo University, her hands dancing across a holographic display jury-rigged from salvaged alien components. "But the power coupling here, it's almost crude compared to what we'd expect. That's because they're old, Elena replied, running her fingers along the smooth surface of an alien weapon. Their technology is advanced, but it's also ancient. Refined over millennia, but never truly innovated. Across the facility, engineers from every major defense contractor worked alongside university professors and garage inventors, all united by humanity's greatest talent, the ability to take someone else's technology and improve it beyond recognition. Meanwhile, 300 miles above Earth, Commander Valix was discovering that conquering humanity would be far more complicated than anticipated. "Sir," reported sensor operator Nex, "the humans have established what appears to be a planetary communication network. They're sharing technical data faster than we can intercept it." "And," Valix prompted, "they're learning, my lord. Every engagement with our forces results in improved countermeasures within hours. Look at this." Nex highlighted a section of the tactical display. 24 hours ago, their projectile weapons couldn't penetrate our armor. Now they're using rounds that can punch through a ship's hull. General Krex studied the reports with growing unease. "How is that possible?" "They're not just adapting," Valix said slowly. "They're evolving. In real time." The proof came during the second major engagement. A full Zephyrian assault squadron descended on what their intelligence indicated was a major military installation near Norfolk, Virginia. What they found instead was a trap that demonstrated humanity's terrifying capacity for warfare. The base was real, but it had been evacuated and rigged with explosives. As the alien ships landed, human forces struck from positions they had prepared in the 18 hours since the scout ship engagement. But this time they weren't just using modified bullets. The first Zephyrian transport to touchdown vanished in a fireball, as human engineers detonated what had once been the base's nuclear reactor. The controlled explosion, shaped by hastily constructed containment fields based on captured alien technology, created an electromagnetic pulse that disabled every Zephyrian ship within a 5-kilometer radius. As the aliens stumbled from their crashed vessels, they faced weapons that shouldn't have existed. Plasma rifles jury-rigged from alien components, energy shields powered by human nuclear reactors, and soldiers wearing armor that combined the best of both technologies. Captain Lisa Rodriguez of the 82nd Airborne moved through the smoke like death incarnate, her modified armor allowing her to match the speed and strength of Zephyrian warriors. The rifle in her hands fired bolts of coherent energy that cut through alien defenses like paper. "This is for taking our friends," she snarled, putting 3-round center mass into a Zephyrian officer. The engagement lasted 6 hours. When it was over, an entire Zephyrian assault squadron lay dead or captured, and humanity had salvaged enough technology to equip a full division of hybrid tech soldiers. Aboard the Crimson Throne, the implications were becoming clear. "They're using our own weapons against us," General Krex reported, his voice hollow. "Somehow they've managed to integrate our technology with their primitive systems." Valix studied the battle footage with growing respect and fear. The humans weren't just copying alien technology. They were improving it. Their modifications were crude but effective, and more importantly, they could be mass-produced using human industrial capacity. "How many ships have we lost?" Valix asked. 12 destroyed, 37 damaged, and 5 captured completely intact, Krex replied. "The humans are specifically targeting ships they can salvage." "They're not just fighting us," Valix realized with dawning horror. "They're learning from us." The truth was even worse than he imagined. In research facilities around the globe, human scientists were dissecting alien technology with the same methodical precision they had once applied to internal combustion engines and computer processors. Every component was analyzed, reverse-engineered, and improved. Dr. Rahman Abdullah in Mumbai had figured out how to make Zephyrian energy shields using human superconductors. Professor Chen Wei in Beijing had improved the efficiency of alien plasma weapons by 30% using rare earth elements. And in a garage in Detroit, a former auto mechanic named Jake Morrison had developed a way to produce alien-grade hull plating using recycled steel and diamond dust. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Michael Foster, a marine biologist studying the captured Zephyrian blood samples, made a discovery that changed everything. "They're dying," he announced to the emergency session of the United Earth Defense Council. "Their species is in genetic decline. That's why they need our blood." It's not for longevity enhancement, it's to prevent extinction. The implications rippled through the human command structure. The Zephyrians weren't just raiders, they were a desperate species facing biological collapse, and that desperation made them infinitely more dangerous. If they can't get what they need from us willingly, General Harrison said grimly, they'll take it by force, all of it. Above them, Valix was reaching the same conclusion. The humans had proven far more resilient than anticipated. Their adaptive capacity was beyond anything the Zephyrian Empire had encountered, but the Empire needed human blood to survive, and there was no alternative. Begin full orbital bombardment, Valix ordered. Target every major population center. If we cannot harvest them efficiently, we'll break their resistance completely. Sir, Communications Officer Nex interrupted, we're receiving another transmission from the planet's surface. This time, the voice that filled the bridge belonged to a different human, one whose tone carried the authority of absolute command. This is President Sarah Chen of the United Earth Government. I am authorized to speak for all 8 billion human beings on this planet. Valix blinked in surprise. They had formed a planetary government in less than 48 hours. You have attacked our world and killed our people, the President continued. You have declared war on humanity. We hereby inform you that your declaration is accepted. The transmission shifted, and suddenly the bridge was filled with images from Earth's surface. Massive factories working around the clock to produce hybrid weapons, armies of soldiers training with alien technology, and most disturbing of all, spacecraft, crude but functional, launching from hidden facilities around the globe. You came here to harvest our blood, President Chen's voice continued, but you've made a fundamental mistake. You've given us something to fight for, something to unite against. And there's nothing more dangerous than a united humanity. The transmission ended with an image that would haunt Valix for the rest of his considerably shortened life. A human child, no more than 10 years old, holding a plasma rifle and looking directly into the camera with eyes that held no fear, only determination. Valix stared at the tactical display, watching human spacecraft climbing toward orbit on trails of nuclear fire. For the first time in his 3 centuries of conquest, he wondered if the Zephyrian Empire had finally found an enemy that could not be defeated. The harvest had become a war, and humanity was just getting started. Admiral Jessica Park stood on the bridge of humanity's first hybrid warship, the UED's Defiance, as it pierced the thermosphere on pillars of controlled fusion fire. The ship was ugly, brutal, and cobbled together from human industrial capacity and captured alien technology. But it flew, it fought, and it carried the hopes of 8 billion souls. Ma'am, reported Commander Williams from the tactical station, we have visual on the alien fleet. 300 contacts maintaining geosynchronous orbit. Any response to our approach? They're not moving, Admiral. No defensive formations, no weapons targeting. It's like they don't consider us a threat. Park smiled grimly. That was about to change. The Defiance wasn't alone. Over the past 72 hours, humanity had accomplished something that should have been impossible. They had built a space fleet. Crude, hasty, and held together with determination and salvaged alien tech, but a fleet nonetheless. 18 ships climbed toward orbit alongside the Defiance. Some were converted space shuttles armed with hybrid weapons. Others were purpose-built warships constructed in underground facilities that had been excavated and equipped in record time. All of them carried crews who had never fought in space before, but had spent their entire species' history learning how to kill. Aboard the Crimson Throne, Commander Valix watched the approaching human vessels with something approaching disbelief. They built spacecraft in 3 days? He demanded. Apparently so, my lord, General Krex replied, studying the tactical readouts. Crude designs, but they appear to be functional. How is that possible? Intelligence suggests they repurposed their existing industrial infrastructure. Automobile factories building hull sections, aircraft manufacturers producing engines, computer companies developing targeting systems. Their entire species mobilized for war production. Valix had never seen anything like it. Most civilizations took decades to develop spacefaring military capacity. These humans had done it in less than a week by treating space combat as simply another engineering problem to solve. Sir, Sensor Operator Nex called out urgently. The lead human vessel is accelerating. They're on an intercept course. Weapons status? Valix demanded. Minimal energy signatures. Whatever armaments they possess appear to be based on kinetic projectiles rather than energy weapons. Valix almost laughed. Kinetic projectiles in space combat. These primitives truly didn't understand the realities of interstellar warfare. That confidence lasted exactly 47 seconds. The human ships opened fire at maximum range, their weapon systems spitting death across the void. But these weren't simple bullets or missiles. Human engineers working with captured alien technology had created something new. Kinetic kill vehicles that accelerated continuously after firing, reaching velocities that even Zephyrian shields couldn't fully absorb. The first salvo struck the Zephyrian formation like the hammer of an angry god. Ships that had conquered 1,000 worlds found their hulls punctured by projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed. The physics were simple and brutal. At those velocities, even a grain of sand could punch through advanced armor. Impossible. General Krex roared as the flagship shuddered under impact. How were they achieving those accelerations? The answer came from Captain Maria Santos aboard the UEDS Retribution. Her ship, a converted deep space mining vessel, fired its primary weapon, a magnetic rail launcher that used miniaturized alien power cores to accelerate tungsten rods to previously unimaginable velocities. Target the big one, she ordered her crew. Let's see how tough their flagship really is. The projectile crossed the distance between ships in less than 3 seconds. It struck the Crimson Throne's forward shields at 12% of light speed, overloading the energy matrix and punching through the hull plating like tissue paper. Valix felt his mighty vessel shudder as atmosphere vented into space. Damage report, he demanded. Sections 7 through 12 are gone, my lord. We've lost 40% of our forward weapons array and our primary shield generator is offline. For a species that had ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia, the concept of being outgunned by primitives was almost incomprehensible, but the evidence was undeniable. Human weapons were not just effective against Zephyrian technology, they were superior in several key aspects. How? Valix whispered. The answer was quintessentially human. Where the Zephyrians had refined their technology over centuries, perfecting energy weapons and defensive systems, humans had approached the problem from first principles. If energy shields could stop energy weapons, use kinetic projectiles. If armor was designed to deflect standard projectiles, build bigger guns that fired faster bullets, and most importantly, if the enemy expected you to fight like a civilized species, fight like humans instead. Admiral Park watched through the Defiance's viewport as Zephyrian ships began to fall. Her fleet was taking casualties too, but they were giving better than they got. More importantly, every engagement provided new data, new insights into alien weaknesses. Admiral, Commander Williams reported, the enemy formation is breaking up. They're trying to establish a defensive perimeter. Don't let them reorganize, Park ordered. All ships maximum acceleration. Get in close and make this personal. What followed was unlike any space battle in galactic history. The Zephyrians, accustomed to long-range energy weapon duels, found themselves in a knife fight with opponents who had spent millennia perfecting the art of close-quarters combat. Human ships dove into the alien formation with reckless courage, their crews using tactics developed in submarine warfare and fighter jet combat. They used the Zephyrian ship's own mass against them, hiding in sensor shadows and striking from unexpected angles. Commander Sarah Chen, piloting a modified shuttle called the Mosquito, demonstrated the principles perfectly. Her tiny vessel, armed with nothing but conventional rockets and a crew of 5, managed to cripple a Zephyrian cruiser by ramming its engine exhaust directly into the alien ship's weapons array. This is Mosquito, she radioed to the fleet as her ship spun away from the explosion. Target confirmed destroyed. Moving to secondary target. Mosquito, you're leaking atmosphere. Admiral Park's voice crackled over the comm. Copy that, Admiral. We'll hold together long enough to take another one with us. That was the moment Valix finally understood what they were fighting. Not just a species, but an idea. The idea that some things were worth dying for and that death in defense of those things was preferable to submission. General Krex, he said quietly. Signal the fleet. Full retreat, my lord. We still outnumber them 3-1. Numbers don't matter, Valix replied, watching human ships dart through his formation like sharks among whales. We're not fighting ships, we're fighting humans. And humans don't surrender. But it was too late for an orderly retreat. The human ships had closed to point-blank range. and their crews were demonstrating tactical innovations that would have impressed Sun Tzu himself. The UED's Defiance, its hull scarred by energy blasts and its crew bloodied but unbowed, positioned itself between the fleeing Zephyrian flagship and open space. "This is Admiral Park to the Zephyrian commander," she broadcast on all frequencies. "You came here to harvest us. Instead, you're going to learn why humans are the apex predators of this solar system." The Defiance opened fire with every weapon it possessed. Kinetic projectiles, jury-rigged energy weapons, and even conventional explosives modified with alien technology. The barrage overwhelmed the Crimson Throne's remaining shields and sent the massive vessel spinning helplessly through space. As Zephyrian ships fled in disorder, Admiral Park allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They had done something impossible. A primitive species had just defeated the most advanced military force in the galaxy. But even as she savored the victory, Park knew this was only the beginning. The Zephyrians would be back, and next time they would come prepared for human tactics. The question was, would humanity be ready for what came next? High Council Chamber of the Zephyrian Empire. 3 weeks after the Battle of Earth. The vast crystalline hall that had witnessed the subjugation of 10,000 worlds now echoed with something unthinkable. Fear. Supreme Chancellor Vorthak, ancient beyond measure and scarred by eons of conquest, studied the holographic display showing the pathetic remnants of the once mighty harvesting fleet. Of 300 ships that had departed for the primitive backwater called Earth, only 47 had returned. And those that survived brought disturbing news. "Explain to me," Vorthak's voice rumbled like grinding stone, "how a species that hadn't achieved faster-than-light travel managed to destroy our most experienced battle fleet." Commander Valix, stripped of rank and bearing the ritual scars of failure, knelt in the center of the chamber. "Supreme Chancellor, the humans are unlike anything we have encountered. They adapt at a rate that defies comprehension. Every engagement made them stronger." "Adaptation," sneered Council Member Zephyx. "All species adapt. We have conquered species with centuries of technological advancement. Worlds with unified governments and established militaries. With respect, Council Member, those species adapted slowly, predictably. The humans evolved their tactics, their technology, even their entire civilization in real time. They turned their weakness into strength and their diversity into unity." The chamber fell silent as the Council processed this information. For 3 millennia, the Zephyrian Empire had expanded through superior technology and tactical doctrine. They had faced resistance before, but never like this. "Show us," Chancellor Vorthak commanded. The holographic display shifted, showing recorded footage from the battle. Primitive human ships maneuvering with impossible precision, using tactics that seemed to emerge spontaneously from chaos. Weapons that had been impossible 3 days earlier punching through shields that had never failed before. "They reverse-engineered our technology in hours," Valix continued. "Not just copied it, improved it. Their kinetic weapons achieved velocities our shields were never designed to withstand, because they approached the problem differently than any civilized species. Barbaric applications of physics," Council Member Nexus observed dismissively. "Effective barbaric applications," Valix corrected. "They don't fight like a civilized species because they're not civilized in any way we understand. They're predators who learned warfare by fighting themselves for millennia." What Valix didn't tell the Council was the most disturbing intelligence of all. Human ships were already exploring beyond their solar system. Captain Elena Rodriguez of the UED's Pathfinder drifted in the void between stars, her ship's hybrid drive systems propelling her toward the edge of Zephyrian space. Behind her, Earth's combined industrial capacity worked around the clock to build a war fleet based on captured alien technology and human innovation. "Navigation, what's our status?" she asked her bridge crew. 17 light-years from Earth, Captain. We're entering what the aliens called the Outer Territories. The Pathfinder was humanity's first true interstellar warship, built in the 3 weeks since the Battle of Earth using everything they had learned from captured Zephyrian vessels. It was faster than alien ships, more heavily armed, and crewed by humans who had grown up watching science fiction and dreaming of the stars. "Sensors are picking up artificial structures ahead," reported Lieutenant Chen from the science station. "Looks like some kind of industrial complex." What they had found was a Zephyrian mining operation, one of thousands that fed the Empire's vast industrial machine. The facility was lightly defended, considered safe in the deepest parts of Zephyrian space where no hostile force had ever penetrated. "Send a message to the facility," Captain Rodriguez ordered. Standard human diplomatic protocol. The transmission that reached the mining station was simple and direct. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the United Earth Defense Force. You have 30 seconds to evacuate before we reduce this facility to scrap metal." Zephyrian Station Commander couldn't believe what he was hearing. Humans? Here? Impossible. 29 seconds later, the Pathfinder opened fire with weapons that combined the best of human and alien technology. The mining station, defended only by automated systems designed to repel pirates, was annihilated in minutes. But the real message wasn't the destruction itself. It was the fact that humans had traveled 17 light-years from their homeworld to deliver it personally. As news of the attack spread through Zephyrian space, panic began to set in. If humans could strike this deep into the Empire, nowhere was safe. Back on Earth, Admiral Park stood in the war room that had been carved from bedrock beneath the former United Nations building. Around her, holographic displays showed the deployment of humanity's growing fleet. In 3 weeks, they had gone from 0 interstellar capability to fielding 37 FTL-capable warships. "Ma'am," reported General Harrison, "we've got confirmation from Pathfinder. Mining Station 77 Alpha has been destroyed. No casualties on our side." "Good. What's the status on the construction yards?" "Luna Base 1 is now fully operational. Mars Industrial Complex will be online within 10 days. And the asteroid belt mining operations are exceeding all projections." Park nodded with satisfaction. Humanity had taken one look at Zephyrian technology and decided they could do it better. The fusion reactors powering their ships were more efficient than alien power cores. Their weapons hit harder and faster, and their manufacturing techniques, refined through centuries of mass production, could build ships at a rate that astounded even them. But most importantly, they were united in a way the galaxy had never seen. "Sir," Lieutenant Murphy interrupted from the communications console, "we're receiving a transmission from Zephyrian space. It's addressed to you personally." The main display flickered to life, showing the scarred face of Commander Valix. Behind him, the damaged bridge of the Crimson Throne spoke of a once mighty empire now struggling to understand what it faced. "Admiral Park," Valix began, his voice carrying the weariness of defeat, "I am instructed to offer terms for cessation of hostilities." Park almost smiled. "Terms? You attacked our world without provocation. You tried to harvest our people like livestock. And now you want to negotiate?" "The High Council recognizes that continued conflict would be costly for both sides. Commander, let me explain something to you. 3 weeks ago, we didn't even know you existed. Today, we have ships ranging throughout your territory, and we're learning more about your weaknesses every day. What exactly do you think you have to offer us?" Valix hesitated before responding. "Information. About the galaxy you're about to enter. About the other species, the other threats. The Empire has knowledge spanning 3 millennia. Knowledge we can acquire ourselves by asking the species you've oppressed. How many worlds have you enslaved, Commander? How many civilizations have you harvested? That is the way of the galaxy, Admiral." The strong take from the weak. Park's expression hardened. "Not anymore. Humanity is about to change the rules." The transmission ended, leaving the war room in contemplative silence. "Ma'am," General Harrison said finally, "what are your orders?" Admiral Park studied the galactic map display showing human fleet positions spreading like a virus through Zephyrian space. Each red dot represented a human ship-carrying crew, members who had volunteered to travel light years from home to ensure that no species would ever again face what Earth had faced. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered. "I want every Zephyrian military installation within 50 light-years of Earth identified and eliminated, and start broadcasting our standard message to every world in their territory." The standard message was simple. "This is the United Earth Defense Force. We are here to liberate you from Zephyrian oppression. Surrender of Zephyrian forces is optional. Cooperation with their regime ends now." As human ships spread throughout the galaxy, they carried with them something the Zephyrian Empire had never encountered. The idea that some things were worth fighting for, that freedom was worth any sacrifice, and that a united humanity was the most dangerous force in the universe. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity was just getting started. 6 months after first contact, the Zephyrian capital world of Throne Prime burned under alien skies. The massive city continent that had ruled a galactic empire for 3,000 years now lay in ruins. Its crystalline spires shattered and its ruling towers reduced to rubble. Admiral Jessica Park stood on the bridge of the UEDS Liberation, humanity's flagship and the most advanced warship ever built. Through the viewport, she watched human marines secure the last Zephyrian strongholds while freed alien populations celebrated in the streets below. The final battle hadn't lasted long. By the time human forces reached Throne Prime, the Zephyrian military had effectively collapsed. Half their fleet had defected to local resistance movements. The other half had simply vanished into deep space. What remained of the once mighty empire was a collection of isolated outposts and the handful of die-hard loyalists defending the capital. "Ma'am," reported Commander Williams, "General Chen confirms the Imperial Palace is secure. The High Council has been taken into custody." Park nodded. It was over. The species that had come to harvest humanity's blood now knelt in the ruins of their own throne room. Their empire scattered and their people facing the same choice they had given countless others: submit or die. But humanity had offered a third option: redemption. In the palace's great hall, Supreme Chancellor Vorthak knelt in chains before a human tribunal. The ancient Zephyrian's scarred hide told the story of 3 millennia of conquest, but his eyes now held something they had never known: fear of judgment. General Maria Chen, former Delta Force operator turned humanity's chief military justice officer, studied the alien warlord with cold precision. Around her, representatives from dozens of liberated worlds waited to testify about centuries of oppression. "Supreme Chancellor Vorthak," Chen began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber, "you are charged with genocide, enslavement, and crimes against the fundamental rights of intelligent life. How do you answer?" Vorthak raised his head with what remained of his pride. "I am Zephyrian. We are conquerors. What we did was the natural order of things." "The natural order," Chen repeated. "The same natural order that justified harvesting entire populations for biological resources? The same order that reduced civilizations to cattle?" "Yes." The simple word hung in the air like a confession. Around the chamber, witnesses from a dozen species murmured in their native tongues. Some called for blood. Others demanded justice. A few asked for mercy. Chen looked to Admiral Park, who had taken position at the back of the hall. The two women had fought together since the first alien ship had appeared over Earth, and they understood each other without words. "Chancellor Vorthak," Park said, stepping forward, before sentences passed, "there's something you need to understand about humanity." She activated a holographic display that filled the chamber with images from across the galaxy. Human ships providing aid to devastated worlds, human engineers rebuilding shattered cities, human doctors treating alien diseases, human teachers sharing knowledge with species that had been kept deliberately ignorant. "You came to our world expecting us to submit or die," Park continued. "Instead, we chose a third option. We chose to be better than you." The images shifted to show former Zephyrian worlds now governed by councils of multiple species, their populations free to choose their own destinies for the first time in centuries. "Your empire was built on the principle that the strong dominate the weak," Park said. "Humanity rejects that principle. We believe the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak." Vorthak stared at the displays with something approaching comprehension. "You're rebuilding what we destroyed. We're building something better. A galactic community based on cooperation instead of domination, trade instead of tribute, justice instead of might. And what of us?" Vorthak asked. "What happens to the Zephyrians?" General Chen stepped forward again. "That depends entirely on you. Your people can join the galactic community as equals, contributing your knowledge and skills to the common good, or you can face the consequences of your choices. And if we refuse," Admiral Park's expression hardened, "then you'll discover what happens when humans stop being merciful and start being efficient." The threat wasn't empty. In the 6 months since Earth's liberation, humanity had demonstrated a capacity for both compassion and ruthless effectiveness that had awed the galaxy. They could rebuild a devastated world or reduce a military installation to atoms with equal skill. "I need to understand," Vorthak said slowly. "Your species achieved all of this in 6 months? From primitive backwater to galactic superpower?" "We achieved this," Park corrected. Because we were never primitive. We were just isolated. Humanity spent 10,000 years learning how to solve problems, how to adapt, how to improve everything we touched. You gave us the stars and we've made them better. The truth was even more impressive than Park admitted. Human technological advancement hadn't just continued, it had accelerated exponentially. With access to Zephyrian databases and the eager cooperation of liberated species, human scientists and engineers had made breakthroughs that would have taken centuries of independent research. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now heading the Galactic Technology Integration Project, had developed faster-than-light drives that made Zephyrian ships look like toys. Human-designed medical nanites could cure diseases that had plagued alien species for millennia, and human industrial techniques had increased production efficiency across liberated worlds by orders of magnitude. But perhaps most importantly, humanity had given the galaxy something it had never had: hope. On the former slave world of Kepler 442b, alien children attended schools alongside human teachers, learning about concepts like individual rights and representative government. On the mining world of Tau Ceti C, former slaves now owned their own businesses and elected their own leaders. The transformation wasn't universal or perfect. Some species struggled with concepts of freedom after centuries of oppression. Others actively resisted human influence, preferring familiar chains to uncertain liberty. But slowly, steadily, the galaxy was learning that there were alternatives to domination and submission. The tribunal's decision is as follows, General Chen announced, bringing the chamber back to the matter at hand. Supreme Chancellor Vorthak, you are guilty as charged. However, in recognition of your cooperation and the testimony of your own people regarding your recent efforts to prevent further atrocities, this tribunal sentences you to life imprisonment with the possibility of rehabilitation. Rehabilitation? Vorthak looked confused. The opportunity to earn redemption through service to the species you have wronged, Park explained. Your knowledge of Imperial operations will help us locate remaining strongholds and free the last enslaved populations. Your cooperation could save millions of lives, and if I refuse, then you'll spend the rest of your considerable lifespan in a cell, watching the galaxy become everything your empire prevented it from becoming. Vorthak considered this for a long moment. Around him, the representatives of liberated worlds waited for his answer. His choice would set the precedent for how the galaxy dealt with its former oppressors. I accept, he said finally. Not for myself, but for my people. They deserve the chance to become something better than what we were. As the tribunal concluded and the chamber emptied, Admiral Park remained behind, studying the spot where the Zephyrian tyrant had knelt. In 6 months, humanity had gone from victims to liberators, from prey to protectors. They had taken a species attempt at genocide and turned it into an opportunity for galactic transformation. Admiral, Commander Williams approached respectfully. The fleet reports all objectives secured. The last Zephyrian military installations have been neutralized or converted to humanitarian aid stations. And our casualties? Light, ma'am. The enemy surrendered faster than we could advance in most sectors. Park nodded. It had been a remarkably bloodless conquest, mostly because humanity had offered something the galaxy had never seen: a chance at genuine freedom and equality. Set course for Earth, she ordered. It's time to go home. As the Liberation lifted away from Throne Prime, Park looked back at the world that had once ruled the galaxy through fear and oppression. Now it would serve as a symbol of justice and the possibility of redemption. The Zephyrians had come for humanity's blood, seeking to harvest what they needed to survive. Instead, they had found something far more valuable: proof that the strong could choose to serve rather than dominate, that power could be used to protect rather than exploit, and that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the universe was a species with nothing left to lose and everything worth fighting for. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, Park reflected as Earth grew larger in the viewport ahead, was exactly the point. Humanity had gone to the stars not as conquerors, but as liberators. And in freeing the galaxy from tyranny, they had finally found their true place among the stars. Not as rulers, but as guardians of the idea that every sapient being deserved the chance to be free.